Most people know Lucifer as the fallen angel, the one who defied God and was cast out of heaven. But few know what truly happened before his fall. Before pride, before rebellion, before the first shadow entered heaven, there was a conversation. One so powerful, so filled with divine truth that it changed the course of eternity. This is the story of what God told Lucifer before his fall. Long before the earth was formed, before time had meaning, heaven shone with perfect harmony. Every light, every song, every breath of creation existed in absolute order. And among the countless angels, one shone brighter than the rest. His name was Lucifer, the morning star. Beautiful beyond words, wise beyond comprehension, and radiant with a glory that reflected the very light of God. He was not just another angel. He was the highest of the cherubim, the guardian of divine mysteries, adorned with every precious stone. When he moved, heaven itself seemed to echo his brilliance. The symphony of creation would rise and fall with his voice. And in that eternal peace, God himself looked upon Lucifer with favor. But even in heaven, beauty can conceal a shadow not yet born. Lucifer stood often before the throne of light, where no mortal eye could see, and no angel could stand without trembling. It was there, in the silence before time, that God spoke to him. "Lucifer," said the voice that made the stars burn, "you are the light-bearer, the reflection of my glory. Through you, heaven shall see my splendor, and the hosts shall know my wisdom." Lucifer bowed, radiant and still, as the presence of God filled all creation. "Yet remember this," God continued, his tone as soft as eternity itself. "The light that burns within you is not your own. You are a vessel, not the source." For a moment, the heavens grew silent. Even the seraphim paused in their endless worship. Lucifer's eyes, filled with shimmering pride and wonder, lifted toward the throne. "My Lord," he said, his voice pure as crystal, "all that I am, I owe to you. My light is yours. My song is yours." And yet, something deep within him stirred. A thought, faint as a whisper, took form. "If I reflect his glory so perfectly, then am I not as glorious as he is?" God, who sees beyond all thought, felt that whisper take root. But he did not strike Lucifer down. He did not command fear. Instead, he spoke with love, a final warning that would echo through eternity. "Lucifer," said the Almighty, "you stand closest to my light. But beware, for the nearer one stands to light, the deeper their shadow grows. Should your heart ever claim what is mine, your light will turn against you. The brightness that lifts will become the fire that consumes." Lucifer listened, but he could not understand. To him, pride did not yet exist, not as rebellion, but as wonder. He only saw his own reflection shining so perfectly in the divine radiance. In the ages that followed, God created the foundations of the universe. Stars ignited, galaxies took form, and time began its march. And among the angels, Lucifer's light seemed to grow brighter still. He was trusted with music, with knowledge, and with command over legions of angels. The morning star had become the voice of heaven's beauty. Yet with every note he sang, a new desire formed. Subtle, quiet, patient. It was not hatred. It was not anger. It was a yearning to be more. To be seen not just as a reflection, but as a creator in his own right. The thought haunted him. During the songs of worship, when the multitudes bowed before God's throne, Lucifer began to feel something strange. His heart swelled, not with devotion, but with the sweetness of being adored. When angels lifted their eyes toward him, their admiration burned hotter than the sun. And then one day he stood once again before the throne. This time, heaven felt different, quiet, heavy, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. God looked upon Lucifer and once again spoke words that carried both love and sorrow. "Lucifer," said the voice that shapes all creation, "you were the first to behold my glory, the brightest of all my works. Yet I see in you the spark of a storm. Do not let your heart be deceived by its own reflection. You are loved beyond measure, but you are not me." Lucifer's expression remained calm, but within, that whisper returned, stronger than ever. "Why should I not be more?" he thought. "Why should I bow forever when I was made to shine?" But he did not speak it. Not yet. And God, in his infinite mercy, spoke once more, not as a ruler, but as a father. "There will come a time," he said, "when I shall create beings in my image, lesser than angels, yet destined to bear my spirit. They will walk in worlds of matter and time, and through them my love will be revealed. You, Lucifer, must guide them, not rule them. You must serve, not demand. Can you do this?" Lucifer hesitated. Serve them? Be a guardian for creatures made of dust? To his pride, the thought felt unbearable. He bowed, but his silence spoke what his lips could not. God saw it all. And with a voice that shook the very foundations of heaven, he said, "The greatest glory is not in ruling, but in obeying. Remember, my son, pride was never born of light, but of the shadow that forgets where the light came from." The words pierced Lucifer's heart like fire and ice. For the first time, the morning star felt conflict, a fracture between the light he carried and the will that desired to claim it. As he turned away from the throne, the symphony of heaven resumed, but within him, something had changed forever. The seeds of rebellion were sown, and though no angel yet knew it, the brightest light in heaven had begun its descent into shadow. Heaven still sang, but something had changed. The melodies that once brought perfect peace now carried a faint tension, like a single note slightly out of tune. No one knew its source. Only one heart felt it growing, the heart of the morning star. Lucifer stood upon the highest clouds of heaven, where golden light met the endless horizon. His wings shimmered like fire, and his eyes reflected the glow of eternity. Yet the peace he once felt was fading. Inside, questions burned. Why must I always bow? Why must every song end with his name, not mine? He looked at his reflection in the rivers of light that flowed beneath heaven's gates. His face, flawless, radiant, crowned with divine beauty. He had led choirs that moved the heavens, commanded hosts that guarded the throne, and carried wisdom unmatched. To him there was no greater creation. And yet God had spoken of something new, a world, a people of clay, weak and mortal, who would carry his image. Lucifer could not understand it. How could beings made of dust be worthy of divine love? How could they be called children of God when angels had served him for ages uncounted? These thoughts, once small, began to consume him. He wandered through the courts of heaven, watching the angels prepare their hymns of praise. Gabriel's voice rose in devotion. Michael's strength gleamed with humility. Every angel gave glory not to themselves but to the Creator. It was beauty, perfect and pure, but to Lucifer it began to feel like a chain. And so the morning star withdrew. He stopped singing. He stopped joining the great gatherings before the throne. The others noticed, but none dared question him. For who would question the most beautiful of God's creations? In the solitude of his palace of light, Lucifer began to create music of his own, songs not of worship but of self, notes that praised beauty, intellect, and freedom. The sound was unlike anything heaven had heard. It was haunting, mesmerizing, and dangerous. Some angels heard it from afar. Drawn by the melody, they came to listen. They felt power in it, a pride that stirred something in their hearts they had never known. Lucifer smiled. "Do you not feel it?" he said softly. "The beauty of what we are. We who move the stars, who carry the light itself. Are we not worthy of more than endless servitude?" The angels hesitated. His words were graceful, his tone sincere. There was no open rebellion, no defiance, just questions. Questions that made sense. And thus the whisper spread. Lucifer's influence grew like a shadow at sunset, slowly, beautifully, almost unseen. He spoke not of war but of freedom, not of hatred but of enlightenment. He called it awakening. Meanwhile, before the throne, God watched. He did not strike. He did not silence. For even in heaven, free will had meaning. Then came a day when all of heaven was summoned. The throne blazed with light, and the voice of the Almighty filled the realms. "Creation shall begin," God declared. "A world shall rise from the void. Its skies, its seas, and its living souls will bear my breath. To them I shall give choice, the same gift I gave to you. And through their love, my glory will be complete." The angels bowed and rejoiced, all except one. Lucifer stood still. His eyes burned not with reverence, but with something new, resentment. When the assembly ended, he went back to his dwelling, his wings trembling. "They will love him," he whispered, "but they will never see him. They will worship him through faith, while I have seen his face, I have heard his voice, and still I must bow." He turned toward the gates of heaven and looked out into the void where earth would one day exist. "If love is his greatest law," he said quietly, "then perhaps I can love myself enough to be free." That night the stars dimmed. In the deepest chambers of heaven, Lucifer gathered the angels who had begun to follow him, not in rebellion but in admiration. They were drawn to his beauty, his wisdom, and his passion. "My brothers," he said, his voice calm and soothing, "we have served without question. We have sung his praises since before time began. But now he makes creatures of dust and calls them his children. Are we not more divine? Should we not share in his throne?" The angels murmured among themselves. Some bowed their heads in confusion. Others nodded, their eyes reflecting Lucifer's light. He stepped forward, his wings unfurling like a storm. "I do not seek to replace him," he said. "I only seek to rise, to claim what we have earned. If I carry his light, then why must I live in his shadow?" The words were honey and poison. And then, for the first time, he felt something he had never felt before: separation. The warmth of God's presence that once filled him began to fade. His light flickered, not dimmed, but distorted. He felt power, but it no longer came from above. It came from within. A strange, intoxicating strength that whispered, "You need no master." And in that moment, God spoke. Not aloud, not through thunder or flame, but directly into Lucifer's spirit. "Lucifer," the voice said, "you have begun to love the reflection more than the source. You have made yourself your own God. Do you not see what you are becoming?" Lucifer looked toward the throne, tears of light forming in his eyes. "I only want what is fair," he said. "I only want to be free." And God answered, "Freedom without love is pride, and pride without truth is death. I gave you light to share, not to worship. I made you to serve, not to rule. Turn back before your beauty becomes your curse." But Lucifer could not. The voice of his own pride had grown louder than the voice of his Creator. When God's presence lifted, the silence that followed was heavy, sacred, and sorrowful. Lucifer fell to his knees, trembling, but not in repentance. The first tears of heaven fell upon the floor of eternity, not from pain, but from defiance. And as they struck the golden glass beneath him, a faint tremor ran through heaven's core. The harmony that had once been flawless now carried the sound of discord. Lucifer rose slowly, his wings spreading wide. His eyes no longer reflected heaven's light, they burned with his own. "Then let it be so," he whispered. "If I cannot rise by his will, I will rise by mine. The stars flickered, the light trembled, and in that stillness, heaven held its breath. The morning star had begun to fall, not from heaven yet, but from greatness trembled. What began as whispers had grown into thunder. The song of creation, once flawless and eternal, now carried the echo of defiance. And at its heart stood the morning star, no longer shining with divine harmony but burning with his own fire. Lucifer walked through the great halls of heaven, his steps silent, his wings unfolding like storm clouds. Around him stood the angels who had followed him, not out of hatred for God, but out of love for him. Their loyalty was misguided but powerful. He looked upon them and said, "Brothers, we were born from light, not chains. Why must heaven belong to one alone? The Almighty has given us strength, yet denies us the throne. If we were made in his image, then are we not worthy to rule beside him?" The host of angels murmured in awe. The brilliance of his presence was intoxicating. His words stirred something deep within them, a desire they had never known before. And then the heavens split with light. Michael descended, his armor shining like molten gold, his expression calm but sorrowful. Behind him stood legions of angels loyal to the throne, their wings radiant with purity. "Lucifer," Michael said, his voice firm, "you stand upon sacred ground and speak words that do not belong to heaven. Stop this before it destroys you." Lucifer turned, smiling faintly. "Destroys me? No, brother, will free me. You serve without question. You bow without thought. But I see what you cannot, a truth that even God fears. There is no truth outside his will," Michael replied. Lucifer stepped closer. "Then his will is a cage." For a long moment, the two brothers faced each other, light against light, purpose against pride. All of heaven fell silent, waiting for what would come next. Then the voice of God filled the realm. It was not thunder, not fire, not wrath, but sorrow. "Lucifer," it said, "you were perfect in beauty, full of wisdom, and blameless from the day you were created, until pride was found in you. You were the guardian of my throne, the bearer of my light. Why do you turn against me?" Lucifer fell to one knee, not in worship, but in defiance. "You call it pride. I call it freedom. You made me reflect your light, but I have found my own. Why should I live as your shadow when I can burn brighter than the dawn?" And for the first time, heaven saw tears fall from the eyes of the Almighty. "My son," God said, "you cannot create light from pride. You can only steal it, and that light will consume you." Lucifer's voice broke through the silence. "Then let it consume me. I would rather burn as my own flame than live forever as your reflection." The word struck the heavens like a sword. The host trembled. The air itself seemed to tear apart. And then, in a voice filled with both love and finality, God spoke once more. "If you will not serve, then you cannot remain. The throne you coveted shall be empty to you forever. The light you loved shall become your fire. And the name you carried, Morning Star, shall turn to shadow. You shall be called no longer light bringer, but accuser, for you have turned against the truth." Lucifer rose to his full height, eyes blazing. His wings unfolded in fury, and his followers lifted their swords of light. The air ignited with energy, the first spark of war in a place that had never known conflict. Michael stepped forward, his sword gleaming with divine fire. "Brother," he said softly, "you know this cannot end in victory." Lucifer smiled, not with joy but with pain. "Then let it end in glory." And the war began. It was not a war of time or weapons as mortals know it. It was light clashing against light, will against will. The heavens became a storm of radiance and shadow. Every stroke of Michael's sword sang with justice. Every strike from Lucifer's blade screamed with pride. Stars shattered. Realms trembled. The chorus of angels wept. And through it all, God watched. Not with vengeance but with heartbreak. For love cannot destroy what it once cherished, it can only let it fall. Lucifer fought with the fury of creation itself, his strength unmatched, his beauty terrible. For a moment, it seemed he might prevail. The brilliance of his rebellion lit the skies brighter than 1,000 suns. But divine order cannot be broken by will alone. Michael's army rose in unity, one heart, one voice, one purpose. Their cry shook the heavens. Who is like God? Lucifer's fire began to falter. His light, no longer fed by heaven's source, began to collapse inward. What was once brilliance became burning. What was once glory became agony. Michael struck him down. Lucifer fell through the clouds of glory, through the stars, through the veil of eternity. His followers fell with him, their wings tearing into flame, their cries echoing through the abyss. As he descended, he heard one final voice, calm, infinite, and filled with both sorrow and truth. "Lucifer," said God, "you were the most radiant of my creations. I gave you light, but you chose fire. I gave you freedom, but you chose pride. Yet even now, though you fall, my love does not fade. You will never rise above me, but I will never cease to see you as the one who once carried my light." The words followed him into the darkness, echoing long after the light of heaven disappeared from his sight. And there, in the endless void, Lucifer opened his eyes. His wings, once white as dawn, were now black as night. His beauty was twisted. His voice was filled not with song but with rage. He looked up toward the distant light of heaven and whispered, "Then I will build my own throne, not above his stars but beneath them, and I will make the darkness my kingdom." The ground beneath him cracked and burned. The other fallen ones gathered around him, broken yet loyal. And from the depths of his pain, Lucifer, now Satan, began to speak words that would haunt creation forever. "If I cannot have heaven, he said, then I will have their hearts. I will turn their love into doubt and their faith into pride. If he made them in his image, then through me they shall see how easily that image can fall. The abyss roared in response, and the first shadows of hell began to take form. Above, heaven was silent once more. The stars returned to their places. The harmony was restored, but a scar remained, a memory of light that had turned against itself. And in that silence, the words of God lingered through eternity. The light that forgets its source becomes its own darkness.